I'm so sorry, I'm muted. Good morning. This is Eileen Graybeal. I am the Director of Enrollment Management for St. Joseph Notre Dame High School, and we are thrilled to have you here today. We are very excited to be promoting and working with all of you through this Live with Admissions session. This is our opportunity to meet you where you are, to be able to offer these opportunities of information from our faculty and staff. And we will also be recording these and posting them on our website. So if you're unable to participate in some of these times of day, you can listen to these and watch these at a later point. We do want to emphasize a few things, which is that we would love for any questions. At the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A tab. If you click the Q&A tab, you'll be able to post your questions in there, and we'll be making sure that they're answered. If by any chance you put it in chat also, we will watch that, but our preference is for you to put it into the Q&A section. So I have two children who went to St. Joseph Notre Dame High School. My son graduated in 2016. My daughter graduated in 2019. So I'm very aware of what it's like to be a parent and selecting high schools and looking for that journey with you. That is our goal. That is what we have always been and want to continue to be, is having the personal touch and making sure that we assist you with information that's very important in this very big journey. We have a wonderful team of people that work in admissions, and I'm going to ask our admissions associate, Sean Obligosion, to introduce himself, and we'll move on to the next section of the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sean Obligacion. I am the admissions associate, and I am new to the admissions team this year. I'm also an SJND alum. I graduated class of 2015, and I just graduated from UC Irvine in the spring, class of 2020. I am very excited to be back working in this environment. I got a chance to work with Eileen, Gabby, back when I was in high school, so it's really fun to be back working with people I know and kind of getting to be back in the school community that really helped raise me. So I'm very happy to be back, and this offering with Live with Admissions is something I'm super excited about because, like Eileen said, we really want to engage as many families as we can in as many different ways as possible. So this is definitely one of the ways that we're trying to branch out in our current climate and make sure that all of you are staying involved and engaged and informed. So moving on, we like to start everything that we do here at SJND in prayer. And in these virtual times through distance learning, we've been having student-led prayer videos submitted by the Campus Ministry Executive Board. And we will be showing today's student prayer video. So please join us. In
the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, help me to remember that nothing's going to happen to me today that you and I can't handle. I need rest. I give you my worry. Take it. Lord, I accept your peace, love, and understanding. Help me to turn to you and not to myself. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Hi, it's Shandy. Today's daily lift challenge is to either help or ask for help from somebody with something that is really important to either of you. Anyway, have a great day.
We're going to now be speaking with, we're very lucky today to have our guest speaker, which is our Assistant Principal of Academics, Jessica Park, who's been working so hard and working with the COVID task force to ensure we stay on track with academics, with school schedules. She's passionate about her work and a strong leader for our faculty and our students and families. Please feel free to ask any questions that she'll address, again, we'll address through the Q&A or the chat feature, but we prefer the Q&A. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Jessica Park.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm happy to be here for the second installment of Live with Admissions, talking about my favorite subject, which is academics. So first, I just want to introduce to you a little bit about myself and my background. I've been at SJND, this is my 13th year, And I actually started here as a teacher and taught math and science classes here for about 7 years. I taught Eileen's son, who is just a grown man now, and I see him, visiting his mom at work, and it's a constant reminder of how old we're all getting. I also taught Sean when he was younger, so that is also a constant reminder of how much older we're all getting, but it's a very special place to work. I feel lucky every day to work with this wonderful community of faculty and other colleagues and of our students and parents. Our families are really important to us. I am part of the community here in Alameda, so it's definitely home for me. I taught math and science, like I said, for 7 years, and then I transitioned into this role, and this will be my 6th year in this position as assistant principal of academics. I love this work just as much as I used to love teaching. It's been incredible to be able to help the school and lead the school in a way that is maybe a little bit more distant from the classroom. I miss those days when I was in the classroom teaching the kids and, with them every single day. This is definitely more distant from the students, but I love it because I'm able to impact the school in ways that I maybe wasn't able to as a teacher. As far as just personal information about me, like I said, I live in Alameda. I had a baby almost a year ago, which is crazy to me to think about how much time has gone by since then. And he is just about to turn 1. So I'm going to be, experiencing what it's like to have a toddler, I guess, which I hear horror stories about. And, I don't know if I'm excited about that or not, but it's definitely on the horizon for me. So, it's been a challenging 6 or 7 months with what's going on in our world. But I'm also able to see the silver lining and how much time I've been able to spend seeing my son grow up. So that's just a little bit about me. And I'm happy to share with you guys anything that you're wondering about, anything that you have questions about in regards to what we do here with our academic program. So with that, I will hand it back to Eileen.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. So what we'd like parents, visiting parents, is this is really a casual setting for us. This is something that we're offering weekly to allow people to just get answers within their time frame. So there's a couple of questions that I'll put out for you, Jessica. What has been the biggest challenge with this new school year and distance learning?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Obviously there have been a lot of challenges, not just for us as SJND, but just again in the world, right? For anybody who's going to school right now, any faculty, staff that's trying to mobilize the school in this environment. I think the hardest part about distance learning has been the absence of what, teachers might call like that magic, right, of the classroom, being in the classroom together with the students. And really what that magic is, that dynamic, interactive relationship that they get to have with the students where, they're not being filtered through Zoom. And we're not, right, as teachers and students filtering ourselves in that Zoom classroom, but where we can really truly just have that dynamic and interactive dialogue that leads to so many, teachable moments and moments that students are able to express themselves in a safe place and access learning, right, in a way that's comfortable and that teachers worked so hard to present to them. So I think it's just been really hard for the students and the teachers alike. And I've seen this on both sides. As part of my role, I do, meet very frequently with teachers who might be having challenges. I also do classroom observations, and I can see that challenge is just growing, right? In terms of trying to keep student engagement at a level that, is appropriate and acceptable. Like we used to have in the classroom when we were together. And that's just really hard to foster in a Zoom environment. And I'm sure that parents have seen that, right? At home when they're watching their kids on Zoom with their teachers, they're just missing that interaction and that socializing that they get from being in the classroom. So I definitely say that that's the hardest part for both students and teachers.
Mm-hmm. So true. Another question, what does the school day look like during distance learning?
The school day is pretty busy, just in terms of how much we have scheduled, and that was very intentional. We spent a lot of time over the summer, looking at other models and really just trying to understand what was best for our community. We had a very different schedule last spring when we first were distance learning. As everybody else in the world, we were thrown into the situation and had to just transition right on a dime. And we had a schedule that was less than ideal last spring. So we learned from that. We looked at other models, like I said, and we created something that I think is truly unique to our school. We surveyed a lot. We surveyed our students. We surveyed our parent community. We also surveyed our teachers multiple times. We looked at all the data that we had gathered, and we created a schedule that we thought balanced the needs of everybody as best as possible. It includes time in the morning for office hours that students can have with their teachers. There are a maximum of 3 periods per day. Obviously, schedules are a little bit different when we have shorter weeks. For example, with Labor Day just having happened recently, we had a different schedule for that 4-day week. But in a regular schedule, we have a maximum of 3 class periods. We also have a flexible period, which we call a flex period, every day. And that flex period is designated for a specific use. So 3 times a week, flex period will be used for academic support. That could be individual, meaning you're going into office hours with your teacher to ask for additional support. It also could be that you're working on group work with your peers, scheduling time to make something up with your teacher during that hour and a half slot. Other times, the flex periods are used for social emotional learning curriculum, which our counseling department delivers. And at other times, flex period is used for student life activities, right? So campus ministry, our director of student activities also has other events scheduled during that time. So we have a flexible period every day. We have a longer lunch than we used to, so students are able to get the rest that they need from having classes that day. And then we've also increased the length of the breaks in between each class period, because we really heard the feedback from students that it was too much happening too quickly. They needed screen breaks, right, throughout the day in between their classes. They needed brain breaks. And we end the day right around 3 o'clock. So it's scheduled, and we wanted it to be structured to provide students learning at home with that structure that is difficult to put in place for yourself. So we definitely wanted that structure, but it's also, in my opinion, more spaced out so that we can still provide the breaks that are necessary from being on screen all day. I'd love to hear, from Ellie, who I can see, and Jet, who are our students actually, and they've joined us here on this call. I'd love to hear from their perspective as students what they think about how the school day, is, or how they've experienced it.
Thank you. Is Ellie on here? That's Ellie Charansapi-Pat.
Yes.
She's on our ambassador leadership team, and Jet Lau, who's also on our ambassador leadership team, and students for feedback. So please go ahead, Ellie.
I definitely can say I really like the schedule, because I'm not very good at math, so I'm probably one of the few who actually get help during that hour, and I probably bug the heck out of my teacher, but it actually has helped me a lot having that hour to work with my teacher and ask questions. And then the early mornings are nice, because I wake up early and I just like to use that time. Sometimes I get help or get things done, and I like that the classes aren't too long. They're the perfect size. I don't know, some people don't like 90 minutes, but I think it's good for me, because then it's you get a lot out of the class. So I really like the schedule. I think it's I enjoy it a lot.
Right.
And waking up at 8:30. That was really nice.
Right, yeah, the late starts actually really helped a lot compared to last year, where my body clock is usually set around 8 o'clock, so having school start at 8:30 is actually the perfect time for me. Also, the flex periods, like Ellie said, it's also really useful. You can use that time to just catch up on work and stuff, or you can go and get help from teachers. I've done that a lot, especially in my math classes. Yeah, it's been pretty good.
That's great. One of the things I will say that we do hear from families who are either experiencing that transition in different schools or experiencing this search as you all are for the right school, is our school has stayed very, very consistent throughout the time, together with the students and with the education and with the academics and with the support. As Jessica mentioned earlier, the emotional connection, certainly we miss, as people, we miss that. But with the parts that we can control, it's been very smooth. So Jessica, the next question is, do you have to start, so there's our two programs, biomedical sciences and also engineering pathway. Do you have to start those as freshmen?
So that's a great question. And you do, but you don't have to stick with it and commit to it. You're not locked in other words. If you decide maybe a year or two or even 3 years down the road that you're not really interested in it. So, we have to remember that students change dramatically over their 4 years in high school, right? During the period of adolescence, we have lots of change, maturation that happens from 9th through 12th grade. And it's not surprising that, a student who thinks that they want something in the 9th grade decides that they want to change their course of, passion or interest or academic interest as they grow older and take other classes that, they realize, oh, I didn't know that this was actually a passion of mine. And they decide that they maybe want to change direction. So you do need to start the programs in the freshman year because there are quite a few requirements. I'm going to talk about each program separately because they are very different and also intended for very different, for different students. The biomed program is definitely our signature program that you've probably heard about before. The target student population there would be students who are interested in pursuing biomedical science career paths in the future. And this program is very rigorous in that there are requirements all the way from freshman year through senior year that are pretty set, and it does limit what students, particularly in their junior and senior years, can take for their elective classes. Because of the fact that there are so many requirements for the program, there's not much room in your schedule to be able to take other classes, right? Not to say that you can't take any at all, but it's just a lot of it is taken up by biomed. So as part of the biomed program, you'd start in freshman year. You qualify for it by placing into honors biology, and then there's an interest question, right? Are you interested in the biomed program when you register? And if you indicate that you are, then you get placed into the freshman year required course, which is not only honors biology, but the principles of biomedical science class. Then sophomore year, you'd qualify for the sophomore year requirements, and then junior year requirements, so on and so forth. And you could decide at any time, right, that maybe the biomed program is not for you. In which case, you've taken classes that you need anyways to fulfill your science graduation requirement, so you're not missing anything. And maybe you've taken a couple extra classes that you didn't necessarily need, but it was enough to tell you that maybe this was not for you. The engineering pathway is a newer program. This is our second year as a formal program, and it includes STEAM classes, so science, technology, engineering, and math classes predominantly. The computer science classes that we offer are usually taken in the junior and senior years. And the freshman requirement is actually more minimal than the biomed program. So the freshman year requirement is simply that you need to join the STEAM Society, which is our co-curricular club that participates in co-curricular STEAM activities. You have an independent research project that you're working on. We encourage all of the STEAM members to participate in competitions. So, if you're interested in robotics and you're working on a robotics project, either by yourself or with a small group, we'd actually encourage you to join or enter a robotics competition at the end of the year. You work with our Maker Tech coordinator who has access to and gives education on all of the incredible equipment that we have here on campus. So it's really a minimal requirement for freshmen interested in the engineering pathway that you just join the STEAM Society. And then for the engineering pathway, the requirements really kick in during the junior year where you start to take the computer science classes. I want to ask Jet, who is part of that pathway, to talk a little bit about his experience because he's currently enrolled in the senior AP Computer Science class. So Jet, what are your thoughts on those classes?
Right, yeah. So last year I actually started off as a sophomore in Introduction to Computer Science. I decided to, instead of taking BAM that year, is to take Intro to Computer Science, and I found that it was actually it's a really fun class. It's also really challenging as well, especially for someone who doesn't really have experience in coding before. Uh, I mean, just learning how to code, there's a lot of like errors you have to be watching out for and stuff. So that class has definitely prepared me for AP this year. Uh, you know, it's a really interesting class. It's pretty fun to be in.
Great.
Thanks, Jet.
I can definitely like attest to what you were saying earlier of how like you figure out what you want to do. Like with my sister and I made into the biomed program and I did that my first 2 years. So I did like the honors bio, then principal biomedical science, then chem and the science fair my sophomore. But then I realized like it's not what I want to do and I'm not really passionate about, even though I thought I want to do like psychology and things like that. And then like my sister is the opposite. She didn't do honors bio her freshman year, but she instead took honors chem her sophomore year, and then she joined the biomed program her junior year. So it just shows like even though if you don't like make it in or you don't have it for all those years, I think it's like for college it's not that big of a deal. It just shows your growth of like knowing what you want to do. So I wouldn't get too discouraged if you like don't make it in, or if you do and then you realize it's like it's not something you have to stick with. It's not permanent, and you get to like discover that along the way. And the teachers really help with that too. So
Definitely. And I just want to correct myself. Sorry, Jet. I always think you're older than you are. Jet is a junior, and that's also
Right.
incredible that he's in the AP Computer Science class as a junior, which is ahead of many of our seniors who are in that class. And to what Ellie was saying, we do have some students who maybe didn't qualify for honors biology in the beginning, or they declined the invitation to participate in biomed at the beginning as freshmen. And just being such a small school, we're able to work with students on a case-by-case basis, right? So even if you need to participate from the get-go in freshman year, there are situations where students realize later on, like Ellie was saying about her sister, that she didn't know that she was interested in that and then decided that she did want to be part of it. Again, since we're small, we're able to work with students who might have changed their minds or who maybe are interested in joining the program. And there's, alternative projects or work or coursework that they need to complete in order to do that. But we are able to work with students directly in those situations so that we can put them on the path that they're interested in pursuing.
Can you do both of these programs simultaneously? Or do they?
You can. Yeah, you can in the beginning, but you are forced to choose when you are entering your junior year, right? So, and the reason that you can do both in the beginning is because for the engineering pathway, which has fewer requirements, you can actually join the STEAM Society as a freshman, continue with that in your sophomore year, and you won't be, conflicting in terms of the classes that you would need to take for the biomed program. So it's really the junior year where you start to specialize in the classes that you need to take for the different classes that you would need to make a choice, since there would be a conflict. We have had students to try to do both, and we've tried really hard to make it work for them, but it just is really, really difficult with the schedule of classes that you need to take.
Yep.
one thing people also do is like take classes over the summer, which I don't know if that would work with it. At least if you are really interested, it might not like count as like a credit thing with the school necessarily, but at least you could still like continue it in a way. Like my sister, she wants to be a doctor, but she took like physics over the summer, and that's like always an option too. Like even if you can't necessarily like continue both.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Mrs. Park, a question. Could you please elaborate on your program for supporting students with learning differences?
Absolutely. So I do oversee the counseling department here in my role, and that's a great question. In terms of our programmatic support for students with learning differences, we do have a designated learning difference counselor who only has students on her roster who have documented learning differences. So in the application process for admission to our school, there is a place that you would check whether or not your student has a documented learning difference. Ms. Graybill, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
And that is how we are notified that your child may be in need of learning difference services, right? So it's really important that we have that information. Upon admission and registration, we look at all of the students who have checked that box. And there's a formal meeting that occurs with our learning difference counselor to just go over that, learning difference that your child has, and also some of the accommodations that they might have received at their previous school, any other information that was presented in the documentation that you have. And so there's an interview, kind of a getting to know you process there. That's one-on-one individual with the learning difference counselor and or other members of our counseling department. What then happens is our learning difference counselor, who's very experienced, actually puts together what's called an ILP, and that's called an individualized learning plan. The ILP is a formal internal document for the student, the parents, the faculty members, so the teachers of your student, and the administration and the counseling department, that lists all of the learning accommodations that your child is entitled to receiving once they are enrolled here at SJND and begin classes. So we have some pretty general accommodations that are often provided to our students. And then of course there are specific, unique learning accommodations that our learning difference counselor might recommend for the student. And all of that information is put together in one document that can be shared for all the parties to have the same understanding of what the student needs. Our teachers are then informed at the beginning of the school year in August, and the learning difference counselor actually has meetings with the teachers of the student in question, and they actually share different parts of the individualized learning plan with the teachers and go over it in person so that all the teachers have the same understanding of what accommodations need to be given. So it's a really structured process. We want to make sure that everyone has the right information. And then during the school year, the teachers are, routinely providing those accommodations, specifically for classroom environment, right? Like if a student needs preferential seating, or if they need to take breaks, during the class period. Those are just some examples. And then of course there are testing accommodations like extended time. And if we were in person, there would be, separate setting testing, distraction-free testing. Those accommodations are given by the teachers, and they work cooperatively with the counseling department to provide them to the students as well. So that is how we provide a program of learning difference support for those students.
I can add a couple of pieces in that, as you mentioned earlier, learning difference, that there's a question on the application that sometimes people, for many different reasons, don't check that box. And then we discover that as we go through the process, and it really doesn't give the fair evaluation of the student. So don't be, in our school environment, don't be intimidated by that situation, because what it does mean is that you get the appropriate interview. You get to interview our learning difference program to see if it fits your family and your student. And without that information, we can't arrange that. I also have 2 children. I can just attest to this very quickly, that we're our learning different students who went through the program at St. Joe's, and both of them are in college, or one graduated college, one's in college. And I just have to say that the self-advocating and learning that a learning difference doesn't limit you to the same capabilities and possibilities of every student took them through college with a lot of confidence for their ability to have a voice for themselves. So I really, as personally, am happy to talk to anybody who wants to know what that experience has been like for students and for families. Thank you, Jessica. What about connecting families with teachers or counselors? What is the policy around parents being able to connect with teachers and counselors?
Yeah, I mean, the policy is really that teachers would prefer to work, directly with you and the students, right? I mean, direct communication is always going to be the clearest communication. So we really support that, and we really encourage students to speak with their teachers and to express concerns to their teachers and to express what their needs are if they're not being met. So like Eileen talked a little bit about with our learning difference students, we do promote the self-advocacy concept with them from the very beginning. We want students to feel supported, but also confident, right? To be able to approach problems or challenges that they're having on their own. And then to always know that there are adults on campus who are there to support them should their efforts, fail or not receive the results that they're looking for. So we really encourage students to reach out to their teachers on their own. And we also realize at the same time that in the beginning, as they're younger, right, particularly as freshmen and maybe even some sophomores, they may not feel entirely comfortable doing that on their own. So there's a learning curve there in the beginning. But we do support that. And as far as parents reaching out to teachers, again, I think that teachers would prefer that direct communication if there are challenges or concerns going on. Teachers are right now obviously accessible mainly via email. That would be the case usually during the school year as well. And our teachers also have a 24-hour, turnaround policy in terms of when they need to respond to students or parents via email. And, in this climate, we're just all very flexible and forgiving for things that, maybe are not happening on our timeline. But that is the policy here, is that we ask our teachers to be responsive to students and parents within 24 hours of contact. Counselors, on the other hand, they have an open door policy. Again, if we were on campus, students would be able to, knock on a counselor's door. If they were busy, they'd be able to sign up for a meeting right then and there in their office. Right now, since we don't have that luxury, our counselors actually make themselves available for online appointments that you can sign up for. You can actually sign up for an appointment slot on a counselor's calendar to discuss anything that might be a personal issue or an academic issue, because our counselors are both personal and academic counselors. So our counselors will take meetings upon request, but they'll also schedule throughout the year meetings with all of their students. And they have a strategy to that, right? Making sure that their freshmen are met with first because they're new to the school community, then meeting with the seniors who are going to be in the thick of college applications, then our juniors and our sophomores, more so in the second semester. But they do schedule proactively meetings with all of their students on their caseload as well.
Great, thank you. For Jet and Ellie, would you guys mind speaking up about what it's like how easy and how often you communicate or connect with your teachers? Ellie, you mentioned that you reach out to them during the advisory time, but just in general, what's your relationships been as far as the accessibility to teachers and counselors?
Yeah, all the teachers are really nice. Like, I've never had a teacher where I'm like, ooh, I don't want to like email them. It's really like, as a freshman, I can honestly attest to, like, I was the scared freshman that didn't want to ask my teachers, but it's like, you realize more and more, and the school like encourages it, which is good, is just to go and like talk to your teachers if you need something or if you want more help on something. And if you have an issue, you can like go to your counselors and stuff like that. With like even just classes, they're very accessible. And for me, like recently, since I'm a senior, I've been asking a lot of college questions, so it's been like really easy for me to just like email my counselor and for any questions I have, and they just respond like really quickly, which has been really good. So I think like they're all like very well, like warm, and like I get my questions answered really quickly. So I think that's like something you should encourage your kids if they go to school here. Don't be like me, where I was like scared for like no reason.
Yeah, also like utilize the collab times too. That's like the best time to get your questions answered, like if you need it immediately. Also like just to get work done if you're like struggling in a class. That's what I found to be really helpful this year. For example, I'm in honors trigonometry, and I found that I was struggling in that class this year, and I've actually gone to do the teacher Mr. Band's collab like multiple times, and he's been really useful in helping me understand the material. So yeah, collabs really help. Also emailing your teachers, like Ellie said. Teachers here are actually really responsive. They get back to you pretty quickly, actually.
And that time that Jet was talking about is the academic flex period time, where you can actually contact teachers and work with them directly. And it happens so frequently during the week. I mean, we've got 3 of them scheduled on a normal 5-day week that you really can count on the consistency of that time to get additional support.
We also, when we are in on-campus life, teachers are oftentimes out on the schoolyard at lunch talking to students, or they're opening their doors if they want to come in and talk to them or do homework. It's very much a community in that way. We'll take a couple more questions. One is, how does your school support faculty development?
It's also a great question. We work really closely with our teachers to make sure that they feel supported. And again, I think that's a function of us being a smaller community. Our faculty is, 35 teachers, right? So we know them personally, we know them professionally. And for those teachers who have professional goals of, maybe getting advanced degrees or, clearing their credentials, we are 100% supportive of that. And we actually are able to encourage them to go back and do that type of work if they want to, and provide some financial support for that as well. So I think that teachers who have had those sorts of goals, they would say that they have felt very supported by the school, not only in terms of, you know, the time that we're able to give them to do that, but also financially. As a faculty as a whole, I would say that we have time together in this schedule once a week. On Wednesdays, actually, the students have an early dismissal, and we meet as an entire faculty and staff to hear important updates from our principal and other leadership team members who have information that needs to be presented. And then, you know, oftentimes we're providing some ad hoc professional development on challenges that might just be coming up because of, you know, distance learning, right? And things that maybe are not things that we anticipated, but they're more dynamic conversations or dynamic professional development opportunities that we can give because we see each other so frequently, right? So for example, our quarter is going to be ending here in the next 4 weeks. And there are some, you know, new things. I won't call them challenges, but there are new things that are coming up with the way that we've adjusted our grading in distance learning. And I know that I have time with the faculty every week on Wednesday, so we can actually like address, you know, some of those questions that teachers might have as we roll out something new, because we have routine time together to meet and to discuss. And also they meet in their departments separately as well. So they have multiple layers, I would say, of support in that way. I would also say that the fact that we're small, their departments are, you know, 4 or 5 teachers, right? So there's a lot of collaboration that happens at the department level that is so important for a teacher, particularly a new teacher, right? To have content specific support and professional development from colleagues who have been in the profession for much longer than you, to have that time with your department is also really, really important. So I think that we do a great job of supporting our faculty in their development. And I think a lot of that has to do with how we've structured the time that we have together to be collegial and collaborative and work together towards the school's academic goals.
That's great. So without any further questions, we really appreciate your time today, Jessica and Ellie and Jet. That's very, very helpful. We are going to go on to questions about admissions, and you guys can go about your day, but we really appreciate your time and really hope it was a good experience for you as well.
Thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate the time. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to be going on to our admissions kind of Q&A portion. Ellie and Jet, you are welcome to stay if you'd like to, but you are also welcome to go ahead and go about your class time. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Sure.
Have a good day.
You too.
Bye. Thank you.
I do want to share one page here for everyone to see. This is on our website. This is a list of our advanced placement courses and our honors program, which we do have a process and policy around qualifying for those programs. And they are, you know, coming in with those options or testing into those options, but you can see this information on our website. As we mentioned earlier, this is our admissions team. Excuse me, Gabby Lippi, who's actually in a class today, so she won't be joining us today. Sean Obligacion, who's a graduate and also admission associate, which we are thrilled to have, and myself. This is starting my 7th year. Gabby's on her 9th year, and Sean is on his 1st year, but he did work with us in the past. So you're always welcome to reach out to any of us for any questions, or if you want a one-on-one session, you can go to our emails or go into our website to our emails and click on our names, and you'll be able to sign up for an appointment or a private slot of time to meet with us. at any time. Again, these are the ways that we're going to be reaching out this year. We are doing virtual visits. The virtual visit, we just had our first with an actual class at one of our sister schools. And we're able to do a really positive, based on their feedback, a positive virtual visit. We will be having information sessions that will be also recorded, and they will be in topic areas like our visual and performing arts, our biomedical program, our humanities program. We have been doing sample classes, so our teachers have actually been teaching sample classes to our visiting virtual visits as well. So we've really done a lot of research on what's effective and what's the right thing to do for students in this time that we're in right now. We will be having a parent-to-parent evening. We will be having a Spanish speaking event, and we will be bringing in alumni panels and student panels. Again, our mission is to meet you where you are and to be able to help you with this kind of world that we're going through. Our open house will be virtual. Please put it on your calendar, October 25th. There will be more to come on that coming up. And this is just a review of our timeline. I know there was an HSPT question that I want to come back to and ask or answer, but right now let me show you the application timeline. So our early bird deadline, we do have an early deadline. The benefit of the early deadline is that you receive a reduced application fee. It does not expedite your application or guarantee any quick review or anything like that. It's just a financial opportunity for families and to also have it done before the holiday break. The final deadline is January 7th. We will be having the high school placement test, and it will be on Saturday, January 9th. And I will come back in a moment and talk about the high school placement test. We do a family interview at St. Joseph Notre Dame High School for every student. As we mentioned, for documented learning different students, they have a bit of a more direct and a longer interview process because they meet directly with their counselor so that they can figure out how the process will work for them. Everyone in the school, it's the student and at least one parent to have an interview, and it is an interview done by one of our faculty members, and it is not a academic interview. It's a time to find out about how much you want to be a part of St. Joe's community and for you to ask us questions and get a sense of what our faculty's like. February 4th, so that happens in the week of January 19th, sorry, the interviews and January 23rd, and you'll be given opportunities to sign up for a slot that works for you. They're about 30 minutes, about 15 minutes with the student, 15 minutes with the parent and student. February 4th is the submitting the transcripts and recommendations. So we do require 7th and 8th grade transcripts. And for students who are in Catholic schools, elementary schools in our diocese, your school, you can let them know you're interested in applying to our school. They will automatically submit transcripts and recommendations. For students who are not in a Catholic school, sometimes for public or charter, it's not as easy to get a general recommendation. So we ask you to go directly to your math and science teachers or a teacher that you work closely with or that knows you that can write your recommendation. And those forms are available on the application. And then March 19th is when you receive the admissions notification. What is really somewhat of a differentiator for St. Joe's, and also what we really want you to know, is when you get the notification, and if you're accepted on the 19th of March, you have a full week to 8 days actually, because it's not till the following Saturday to make your decision. Some schools have asked the question that if you are accepted, does that mean you are guaranteed a spot? And for some schools, it's not. It's first come, first serve. For our school, it absolutely is your slot for those 8 days. At the end of those 8 days, if you decide you don't want to go to St. Joe's, and that's when we then would open up our wait list. In regards to the HSPT question, let me just review it here. Says, I noticed while filling out the admissions application, it asks about the HSPT test, but the final test has not been taken yet. Am I able to continue completing the application without the HSPT info? On the application, it's actually it's actually registering for the HSPT. That's all that question is on the application. It's to register your spot. For St. Joseph Notre Dame High School, if you apply to our school, you can take the exam at our school. If you don't apply to our school, we don't have slots for students who don't apply. There are other schools that you apply to. You can check to see if you can take the test there. The HSPT practice exam, we just did one this past Saturday, which was very successful online from home. The company we work with that manufactures the test has created an online version. It went very well, and we have a lot of interest. So we are having a second session on Saturday, October 3rd, from 8, I believe it was 8:30 to 12. And if you're a documented learning difference student, you need to let us know that, and we can provide extended time for a practice exam. What will happen is at the end of that practice exam, you will be sent a copy of your report, and we welcome you to reach out to us to help you interpret that report. And for students who, I mean, all students get anxious about this test, it's a really good way to get a sample of what it's going to be like. 8th graders aren't typically used to sitting for 3-hour exams. So it's a way for them to work, and because they get to work at home, and we do proctor it with our teachers monitoring them and answering questions, they can get a sense of what it'll be like. It's an exact replica of what the actual HSPT test will be. There have been a couple of questions that have come up on why we are doing the HSPT, or are we going to do the HSPT? And we are. With students, we look at 5 components. We look at their application, we look at their application, their 7th to 8th grade transcripts, their family interview, their essay, which is the essays that they write on their application, their HSPT exam results. So we don't look at one thing. We don't look at the high school placement test and say, this is the way that it has to be. We look at it for being able to get a sense of how this student will do. We are very aware that testing is makes the students nervous, and getting those results they think is, oh my God, I'm either going to get in or not. And we don't look at it that way. There's actually a lot of detail in that report that's very similar to standardized testing that your students do in younger years. We still see the value of it because it is part of the package of what we look at for this student, and the families that have taken practice tests in the past have seen it as a value. I do know that there are some independent schools that are not requiring entrance exams, and I know there's a lot of conversation about college ACT and SAT exams and things like that not happening, but it is actually quite mixed, and it's some schools are still requiring and some are not. So signing up for the high school placement practice test, if you choose to do so, I believe today will be on our website under admissions events. So on our website, sjnd.org, under admissions, there's an admissions event tab, and we will have that updated because we just did the one we did on Saturday. And we had a great turnout, but we also had just a great interest. So are there any questions in regards to anything that I could answer really for you now? We have a few minutes here. Any specific questions about the whatever, admissions process, the interview process, the application, whatever we can help you with? Are there any questions we can help with?
Eileen, we do have one question in the Q&A. It's, do you recommend students take the HSPT more than once or just wait until the final test?
That's a great question. And actually the HSPT test is only given once. The actual test is only given once. It's on the same day for every school. So a practice test is literally that. It's practice test. And for some students, it's comforting. For other students, it's not as, it doesn't work with them. And maybe it doesn't work with their schedule, or it's just not an interest they have. But you know your child, and that's what we want to encourage, is you know your child and know, is it worth taking a practice prior to the exam? But the HSPT is only given once. Any other questions?
I also just want to echo one thing that Eileen said about the practice HSPT. It is accessible through our SJND website in the Visit SJND section under admissions. The form is currently closed as of today because we are just finishing up from this past weekend. However, sometime this week it will be open. So I would definitely recommend checking that out if you're interested in registering for the second offering that we have, which is going to be Saturday, October 3rd. So definitely check out the website to register for that practice HSBT sometime this week.
I do want to, thank you, Sean. I do want to also say that we do charge a $50 fee for this exam. And I know we've received some information or some questions about that. And the reason that we do that is that we believe that even though this is an online exam, we believe it needs to be proctored. It needs to be proctored to support the students and to support their families, because we're living in our technology world. We did have some situations this past weekend where people just were kicked off, internet drop, whatever might have happened, and the parent was actually able to get with our teacher, get with us. We run a mini command center where we, Sean, myself, and Gabby are able to be there throughout the testing time to answer any questions, but mostly to help the students not panic that when they're bumped off, it doesn't mean their test was bumped off. It's just a support mechanism. And I know for some schools, they may not be doing that, but that is what we believe to do that. And then the support that we offer throughout the understanding of it. Are there any more questions, Sean?
Yes, there is another one. Someone asked, my daughter took the HSBT this past Saturday, but she wants to take it again and was not sure if she could. So that was addressing the prior question of if you suggested taking it more than once.
Oh, for practice, then not the
yes.
actual HSBT. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's up to the student and the family. Is it doable? Yes. If they want to take the HSPT again, sometimes the results from this HSPT exam that we just took will be available within a couple of weeks. So there is a possibility that you would have your results prior to October 3rd. But what we really see as the value of the practice test is when you get the results, it tells you in detail the areas where you need to maybe practice a little bit more, or maybe you're doing really well and you didn't know that. So it's not the same focus that students feel with the actual test. Like I want my score to be really high. It's really about what's your grade equivalency for English, for math, for quantitative skills. And then for families to be able, it gives you the detail to be able to look and say, oh, I can see there's a comprehension challenge. Maybe we need to practice a little bit more here. There are some really wonderful practice books. Barron's is one publisher, Barrons. It is an actual, the book says HSPT/TAC, TACH/co-op. And that's because in the Midwest, the test is called TAC, and in the East Coast, it's called co-op. But for us, it's HSPT. If you want to, you can get them on Amazon. It's around $20. There are practice exams in there on subjects, and there are worksheets. And so what we encourage families to do is you might want to invest in that book, and you might want to be able to take one of those pages once a week and have your student just practice their skills, because that's really where we see the anxiety for the students. It's around the ability to sit and be focused for that long period of time. Is there another question, Sean?
Yes. The question is, the good question, are the students required to take the practice HSPT?
No, they are not. It is totally optional. Some students prefer to take it to get a sense of the environment. Some students prefer to practice and be ready for it on their own. Some schools work on it. Some elementary schools make it a part of their curriculum to do some HSPT prep course. So no, it's not a requirement. Any other questions, Sean?
There are currently no more questions, but if anyone else has any, please feel free to add them.
We have a few minutes. What I will say to you is that, you know, in this environment where we cannot take you onto our campus to visit our students, we do have a shadow visit program, which is now called the virtual visit program. We do have slots and availability, and I'll have Sean, maybe you could speak to her to sign up for that, the open slots, if we know that yet. But we are also working with lots of schools where we are doing a virtual visit. And the virtual visit includes visits from our students, student panel, a sample teaching from various different teachers within our school on a subject matter, what the classroom will feel like in a Zoom environment. We know and we hope and we pray that when this next year starts, school next year, we will be on campus, and we are doing the absolute best we can to share with you our community, because we are a very strong community. We are a college preparatory high school. And as a college preparatory high school, almost all, except I think for 1 or 2 of our religion courses, are approved by the University of California system, which is not easy to do. Usually religion courses are not typically approved in the UC system, but in our case they are, because they are service-based. And so we work, as you saw Mrs. Park today, Mrs. Park worked very hard with the UC system to be able to get that approval. So we are a college preparatory school and a strong school, and we're blessed in the Bay Area with great schools. So the really big decision is what's the right fit for your child and for your family. Is there a question, Sean? I see something up there.
Yes. The question is there any chance that this recording will be available to see after we end the session today?
Absolutely. It will be, we will either, we'll send you out a notice, but it'll be on YouTube for sure. We're working right now on building a website. We're actually transitioning to a new website that will be available October 1. So we are in the process of building a kind of website series where you can go in and register and see a lot of different things that we'll be recording, info nights, many different events that we will be recording and putting up on there, but it will be up on YouTube. And we will have another one next Monday at 10 a.m. And next Monday will be our athletic director, Carlos Arriaga, who will be talking about the world of school in this environment, and the world of sports, I mean, in this environment. And Carlos has a lot of experience and has been in many, many meetings. So our goal with Live with Admissions each week is to bring you information for you to be able to then later find if you want to reflect, or come to us with further questions based on recordings that you could watch.
If you are registered, if you're on the call, you would have registered for the event. Either later today or possibly early tomorrow, you should also be getting it sent directly to you. We typically send out recordings of the Live with Admissions events directly to the email that you had registered with. Whether or not you actually attended the event, if you registered, then you should also be getting a video or a link to the recording from today's session.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope this is helpful. We love feedback. We are based, our department is based on feedback. So drop us a note and let us know if you found value in this today, or if you've been to the Live with Admissions on last week's session, and if these are helpful for you, and if there's specific areas you want to learn more about. We love the feedback. So we hope you're all staying safe in this very challenging time in our world, in a way we've never been in, or at least in my lifetime. And we hope that you're all doing well. I think there's one more question. I just want to check. Sean, did somebody pop a question in?
No, it's just someone saying thank you.
Oh,
so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you.